Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Amanda. So today's video, I have 4 easy and delicious Thanksgiving side dish recipes for you. I know you won't want to miss them. So guys, today's video I'm so excited to share with you. It's all about Thanksgiving sides. I have 4 easy and delicious recipes for you. A couple of them are family favorites that I've been making and our family's made forever, as long as I can remember. Thanksgiving is literally my favorite food holiday. I'm so excited for all the yummy food. Let me know down in the comments below what y'all are making for Thanksgiving, if you've been thinking about that already. I'd love to see what everybody's traditions are for what they make each year, or maybe you change it up. Let me know that too. So this video is also really special because it's a collaboration with my friend Jeanette from The Name is Jeanette. She is hosting an open collaboration that is a Friendsgiving dinner, and so we're just doing a little virtual Friendsgiving here. I cannot wait to see everyone's videos. Make sure you check out her channel and the entire playlist link below. I cannot wait to see what everyone's made. And a big thank you to Jeanette for hosting this collab. It's been so fun. Also, if you're coming over from one of the other channels, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. I do all kinds of what's for dinners, recipe videos. It's all about the food here. So if that sounds like something you may like, I would love it if you'd hit that subscribe button and join my YouTube family. Also, make sure you turn on the notification bell so that you get notified every time I post so you don't miss out on any delicious recipes. I've got lots of yummy things in store, especially with the holidays coming, so you won't want to miss them. But let's go ahead and get into this video. So we're going to begin with our southern cornbread dressing and our candied sweet potatoes. Now first we're going to go ahead and cut up our sweet potatoes and get those kind of cut into nice little chunks. You want them big enough to where they don't fall like apart, you know, and they still kind of stay like in the whole little chunks. Now both the candied sweet potatoes and the cornbread dressing are the same recipes my mom has always made for Thanksgiving, so I just make them like she does because I'm used to that and I love it. It's like Thanksgiving is literally my favorite meal. So but we're going to go ahead and get those sweet potatoes boiled until they're fork tender, drain them, and then we're going to put them in a baking dish. And in that same pot we're going to go ahead and put about a half a stick of butter and a little over a half a cup of brown sugar, and just kind of get that melted and kind of combined together. Now, these sweet potatoes were kind of small, so I want to leave the directions more of like if you use larger potatoes, because this is kind of what I would consider about a half recipe. So typically, you know, we put a whole stick of butter and additional brown sugar and everything in like a regular size batch. But this was kind of a half a batch because those sweet potatoes ended up being a little smaller than I had anticipated. But once that gets kind of melted and, you know, combined together, we're just going to drizzle that on top of our sweet potatoes. And you can give them a good stir and just kind of get them all, you know, coated with that sauce. That is such like a tasty, you know, combination to me with that brown sugar and the butter. Now, my mom actually makes them with a lot more butter and sugar than I do. But to me, I like kind of a little lesser amount. I don't like them to be just overly sweet. And I feel like that's just perfect for us. So we're going to go ahead and get started on our cornbread dressing. We're going to go ahead and cut up our onion for that. And we're also going to use some celery. I did have some in the freezer, so I just utilized that since I had that on hand. And this is something, of course, if you don't like onion or if you don't like celery, you can definitely leave those out. This is just the way that we've always made it. So I've got about 3 tablespoons of butter here, and I'm going to go ahead and saute those veggies up just until they get like kind of softened. I like them with still a little bit of crunch to them. If you like them more softer, you could definitely carry it a little further and, you know, get them a little more done. But I like to be able to, you know, kind of crunch down on a piece of onion or a piece of celery in my dressing. So now once these veggies get done, we're going to go ahead and sit them to the side, and we're going to heat up some chicken broth. Ideally, you would use like the drippings from a turkey, but since I didn't have that this day, I went ahead and used chicken broth, and that works fine, but you definitely get more flavor from the turkey. And so I'm adding some sage and poultry seasoning both to my cornbread here. I had just baked a pan of cornbread, and this is about half that pan, so about half a 9 by 13 pan. I don't measure my seasonings because since there's no like raw eggs or anything like that in my dressing. I just taste it and see if it tastes like, it needs more sage or something like that. So I encourage you to kind of just taste as you go and see how it tastes. And I ended up using about 3 cups of chicken broth for this, but I feel like sometimes that varies. So again, it's one of those things where you're looking for a texture more than a measurement, in my opinion anyways. You're going to want to wait till it gets kind of not too wet, but definitely wet enough to where you can kind of almost form it. Like it's not, once it kind of stops being so loose like that is right now, and it starts kind of forming together more, that's when for me it's ready to bake. And you can always add more broth if you like it a different way, or add less, or however you like it. It's really easy to adapt. And so I tasted it here and realized I needed a little more sage, so I added some more sage. And now I have a funny thing that I do with dressing. I don't cook my portion. Everything in here is already completely cooked, so there's really no need to cook it if you don't want to. My dad used to eat it that way, and I just learned it from him, and I just love it. So it's so good like that. And my daughter actually eats it that way too. My son, one of my sons actually, he likes his baked. So I'm actually baking a couple of portions for him. I just had these little small Corningware dishes I thought would be perfect for that. And so I baked some for him, and then we left the rest of it uncooked for my daughter and I. Now we will heat it in the microwave, like when we eat it as leftovers or something like that, but it's not quite the same as baking it. But so both of these baked together at 350 degrees for about 30 to 45 minutes till everything gets all nice and heated and done to your liking. Like I said, everything we put in there was already cooked. It's just a matter of getting it kind of to the way you like it. But these are literally 2 standby dishes I have to have at Thanksgiving every year. Definitely the cornbread dressing and also the candied sweet potatoes. So next up, we're going to be making corn casserole. This has actually been a recent addition to Thanksgiving for us. My daughter absolutely loves it, so she was really excited that I was going to be making it. But you're just going to use 1 box of the Jiffy corn muffin mix, a can of corn drained, a can of cream style corn, a stick of butter melted, 8 ounces of sour cream, and then you can also add some sugar and salt as you would like in there. I did not add either one. We're not, like, the Jiffy mix already kind of has a little bit of sweetness to it, and so does the cream style corn. And then also, there's salt in the corn muffin mix and things like that. So we felt like it would probably be seasoned well enough. But definitely feel free to add, whatever else that you might want. Oh, and there's an egg. I think I forgot that a while ago, but there is an egg in there too. So this recipe is super simple. Once you get all these ingredients in there, you're just going to stir them together and bring them, to where they're just combined. And then we're going to go ahead and put them in our baking dish. I went ahead and chose to do 2 small, like mini loaf pans that we're going to actually freeze after they're baked and use those for Thanksgiving, because my daughter is the main one that eats this. And then I baked the rest in a Corningware, like a smaller Corningware dish. So that worked out really well, because that way she's got some, for Thanksgiving already made, and that's going to save me a little time on that day too. So I'm really glad. I looked it up online and saw that a lot of people would freeze it after it was baked. The only thing they said was that if you chop it with cheese at the end, then just make sure to not put that cheese on there when you freeze it. So that's what I did. You actually bake these for a little while first, and then you top it with the cheese anyway. So that worked out just fine. I pulled it out and left that out, and then topped the cheese on the regular casserole one. Now this recipe bakes at 350 degrees for 35 minutes, and then you do 10 minutes at 425 degrees. After that 10 minutes there, that last one, is when I pulled it out to do the cheese, and I just pulled the mini loaf pans out and left them out. So, and then you basically just put it back in the oven just long enough for the cheese to melt. You could even turn the oven off at that point, and the residual heat would melt the cheese in just a few minutes. So however you like to do that. But this has kind of got a softer texture to it. It doesn't bake up like, cornbread or anything like that. And actually I'll show you here in just a second of it in the bowl. That way that you can kind of see that texture, a little bit of it. Because I know it's hard to tell. It almost looks like cornbread topped with cheese there. But so if you haven't had corn casserole before, it can be hard to tell exactly what kind of texture it is. But there's those mini loaf pans, and they are ready to be cooled and put in the freezer, and so we'll use those later. But as you can see, there's more of a softer texture, but then you also get the crunch from the corn. So it's just a really yummy dish for sure, and it's really one of her favorites. So next we have garlic cheesy roasted asparagus. Now, we've never made this before, but the picture looked so good. I thought I've got to try this. So we're just going to get this asparagus prepped. I've already washed it, and I just kind of snap it to see where it snaps, and then I trim the rest of them at that same spot. And then we're going to just lay those on our baking sheet. Then we're going to add some oil to them. I used avocado oil and then also some minced garlic. I just used the kind in the squeeze bottle, but you can definitely use fresh. That would probably be really good too. And then you're basically going to kind of mix that all together. The recipe asked you to mix those both in a bowl, but I didn't really want to dirty up another bowl. I felt like you could still do it on the sheet pan and it would be perfectly fine. And that worked just fine. So I wouldn't worry about doing that, in a bowl, a separate bowl. I'm always about saving dishes if I can, because they really are never ending when you cook a lot at home. So once you get them all kind of coated with the garlic and oil, just spread them out. We're going to sprinkle a little pepper on there. As you can see, I'm holding that funny because the big opening on that container will not shut. And so I actually spilled just a little more than I meant to there. Thankfully, it pretty much just got on the parchment paper, not on the asparagus. So I was clear there. Now, after this baked for 15 minutes at 425 degrees, we pull it out and go ahead and top it with some mozzarella cheese and some Parmesan cheese. And then we put it back in the oven for just long enough for the cheese to melt. Then you're going to want to turn your broiler on and broil that cheese until it gets all nice and golden brown. This was so very good. I love that cheesiness, the Parmesan, the mozzarella. So if you like asparagus, I think you would really love this recipe. Thank y'all so much for joining me today. I appreciate each of you so much. Don't forget to check out the rest of the playlist and Jeanette's channel. I think you'll be excited to see all the different Friendsgiving recipes that we have going. It's always handy to have additional Thanksgiving side dishes and Thanksgiving ideas and everything, because it's coming before we know it. I hope you have a blessed day wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one.